people of the internet, my name is Shelby. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about my 2024 goals for reading and my TBR. In 2023, when I did this video, I was like, I'm not gonna do 23 books on my 2023 TBR because why would I want to dictate a quarter of my reading? Not this year, girl. Not this year. I got 24 books coming at you for 2024. But first, let's talk about my reading goals. As always, we've got the Goodreads Reading Challenge goal. And that, for me, is 100 books again. Last year, I failed miserably. I got 49 books. I don't want to talk about it. However, 100 books in 2024, it's going to happen, okay? It is. And here's how we're going to do it. Here are some of my goals. Number 1, read more physically. This is a goal every year for me, but this year, I really want to focus in on reading more physically through less time spent on my phone right before bed. I am a consistent look at my phone, look at my phone, look at my phone, go to sleep. I don't want to do that anymore. Don't want to do that anymore. I really want to take 30 to 45 minutes at least before bed and spend that time physically reading a book. I'm hoping that this will, number 1, create healthy habits for me, but number 2, dedicate a little bit of time to reading every day. In 2023, reading kind of slipped through the cracks for me because I had so much else going on in my personal life. Reading just kind of fell on the back burner and was no longer a priority for me. I felt like I didn't have time for it. However, if I spent the time that I was scrolling on my phone and goofing off on TikTok reading, I would have read more books. So that is one of the goals for this year, is refocus some of my evenings into reading more physically. That can be like ebooks as well as physical copies of books. I just tend to like listen to audiobooks and play a game on my phone. I could spend that time even listening to an audiobook with the physical book in front of me. I just want to see my phone less. So Kindle and physical books are a priority this year. That being said, I still will spend a lot of time listening to audiobooks. Audiobooks are my primary reading platform, medium, whatever, and that's because I do struggle with ADHD sometimes, and so sometimes that's the only way I can get reading done. Also, I love to listen to audiobooks in the car or while I'm at work. I just find that that's really enjoyable for me. Clearly that dictates audiobooks. So I will still be enjoying audiobooks. I just want to incorporate some physical reading time in my schedule. Another goal is to purchase less books in general, but specifically backlist titles. I love going to a half-price books or a secondhand store and seeing something on the shelf and being super excited about it, and then it ends up sitting here for months at a time. And whereas I love my library collection, I would like to spend less money in general, but specifically on books that I'm not gonna read for a few months. What I really want to do is maybe when I go into those stores, if I'm not picking up something that's released within the past 3 or so months, I can either wait for it until I'm absolutely 100% ready to read it in that moment. It'll be the next thing up on my TBR, or I can put it on a note and borrow it from my library. So those are kind of some of the ways I'm gonna refocus my book buying. That also leads into I want to spend more time at my local library. I love my local library. This isn't necessarily like something that I'm gonna have to change a lot of habits to do. I already go to the library a heck of a lot, and I love my local libraries. I've got 2. They are both fantastic. They have an amazing selection, and I just love going in there and picking out books. But I really want to do it more and actually read the library books I'm borrowing instead of just borrowing them and then keep renewing them until the end of the renewal period and then just returning them. I would love to actually read those books. And the last thing is really prioritize these bad boys. These physical books that I've got here, I need to read them. Because, let's see, on this shelf, I've read 3 on this entire shelf. That needs to change. I need to be prioritizing maybe with some of the physical reading I'm going to be doing this year, some of the books I have on my shelves, because then if I don't like them, I can get rid of them. And that leads me to another thing. If I'm not reading books and I keep seeing something and I'm no longer interested in it, I can borrow it from a library. It's time to get rid of it, send it to a better home, free little library or half-price book sale. I don't care what it goes to. They don't need to be taking up space on my shelves if somebody else could get more benefit from them, and I could borrow them from the library someday. That brief introduction was my 2024 goals. Those are all just general things that I hope will improve my reading and how I feel about reading and my experience with books over the next year. Of course, I'm not going to like force myself to maintain these things, but it's just kind of like a reference point for myself to check back in on and remember the things that I was aiming to do this year. Now we get into the fun part, which is my 2024 TBR. I've got 2020. Oh my god, not 2024. I do not have 2024 books to talk to you about. I have 24 books to talk to you about that I want to read this year. A lot of them are repeats from last year's TBR, and I'm not too proud of that, but we're gonna go with it. So some of these I don't exactly know the plot line of. This may not be a surprise to you if you're not new to my channel. I tend to go into a lot of books blind, or I know generally what they're kind of about in terms of the genre, and maybe like a subgenre if it's like a mystery, like a domestic thriller or a mystery or creature horror or second chance romance. I know like the subgenres of things, but typically I don't know a lot of the details of the plot points. I like to kind of leave that a little bit ambiguous. So for these books, I'm going to tell you more so why I want to read them, and then if I know those finer details, I will share them with you. First up, we have Emily Henry's Funny Story. This is Emily Henry's book that comes out in, I think, April. I already have an arc of this. I've had an arc of this for a little while. I want to say this is a second chance romance. Maybe? I'll correct myself if I'm wrong in this corner or something, but I love everything Emily Henry writes. Most of her books, especially her most recent ones, have been 4 or 5 stars for me. Her most recent being Happy Place and Book Lovers are some of my favorites of her writing. Those have been my 2 favorites. People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read are also great. However, I prefer the most recent ones. So I'm hoping we continue on with that chain of events. I love how Emily Henry's romances and writing in general do delve into the romance a little bit, but I think sometimes they border fiction because they do also deal with other topics rather than just a romance. Sometimes they'll deal with familial issues, sometimes they'll deal with work-related things. There's just so much more depth to her romance novels than just the romance, and I love a cheesy sitcom romance, rom-com, not even sitcom. Sometimes just Emily Henry brings a little bit of depth to the genre that I really enjoy. So every single book by her is going to be on my TBR because I love her. She's one of my favorites. Next, we have 3 individual books that I have counted on this TBR. One of my biggest mistakes in 2023 was putting the last book for like a trilogy or a series on my TBR, and that took up 1 spot for technically what was 3 books, because I'd be like, I really want to read this book, but in order to read this book I also have to get to this one and this one. I'm not doing that this year. All 3 of these are on my TBR, and they were on my TBR last year. That is the Crescent City series. So first up we have House of Earth and Blood, then House of Sky and Breath, and lastly, this one comes out at the end of this month, House of Flame and Shadow. I have pre-ordered each of these or bought them brand new on release week because I love Sarah J Maas and her writing. However, I have not gotten to them yet, and I very vividly remember people freaking out about House of Sky and Breath, and I was like, I have to read that in 2023. I didn't. So that's a little bit embarrassing. Also, Crescent City was on my 12 Friends 12 Books challenge because I believe my friend Jackie recommended it to me. Didn't read it. Did not read it. So these are getting read this year. They are. I already have the 3rd one pre-ordered. I have the pre-order art from the 2nd one. I don't know where it is. Somewhere over here I have pre-order art from the 2nd book. Like literally, I am so invested in a series that I haven't even started yet. I own that one. Do I want to get up? Priory of the Orange Tree. This is a book way up there. You can see it right there on my physical TBR. I bought this in paperback because I was like, it's so thick. I don't want to like get it in hardcover. I'm a hardcover girly. You can see behind me. I love a hardcover. This book is so thick. I had to get it in paperback. The reason I put this on my 2024 TBR is I want to challenge myself to read a big high fantasy. This is something I've heard amazing things about. This book is just raved about by all of my friends that have read it. I want to challenge myself, and it would be so fun to like read a little bit of this every single night or when I can get to it, and then feel the accomplishment of like reading, what is it, 900, 1,000 pages, something ridiculous. That is a feeling I want to feel for purely selfish reasons. All I need to know is that everyone has loved it, and I love the idea of a 1,000-page book as a challenge. Admittedly, I, a big Sarah J Maas fan, still have not read A Court of Silver Flames. I read all of the original trilogy way back when, and then A Court of Silver Flames came out. It was another book that I bought like either on pre-order or like release week. I was so excited about it. Never got to it. Still have not gotten to it. And the reason for that was, I was like, I have to reread the originals so I can remember and get caught back up in the story and the plot line, because I felt like I was missing a lot of that. And then I was like, then I can finally read A Court of Silver Flames. Well, it took me all of 2023 to read the originals again. That being said though, I finished. I have vlogs for each of them if you would like to watch. Some of them may not be out yet depending on when this goes up. I think those are going up after this. Regardless, by the end of January or February, all 4 vlogs will have been posted, and it is time to finally read A Court of Silver Flames this year. All of my friends are dogging on me. They're like, you still haven't read it? I'm like, no girl, give me a minute. This year, I'm gonna finally be able to say I have read it. Next up, we have 2 Riley Sagers. One of them is technically now a backlist title. I own it somewhere. Oh, it's over there. Like, all the books I want to talk about are like way up and out of my reach that I don't want to talk about. This one's over here. It's on my book of the month shelf, and that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This was Riley Sager's 2023 release. Oh my god, my years are so confused. It was his 2023 release. I've heard decent things about it. It was a pick for the Literally Dead book club as well as book of the month. I was going to read it for the Literally Dead book club. I even bought an Audible credit for it, and I just never got around to it. So hopefully this year I will. As well as his 2024 release, which is called In the Middle of the Night. Middle of the Night? Just Middle of the Night. You can see the cover here. Do I know what this is about? No. Have I really enjoyed Riley Sager's writing, what I've read of it? For the most part, yes. I think I can trust him as a mystery thriller author, so I don't really need to know a lot going in. I believe the only book of his that I have not read yet is Home Before Dark. I do own it somewhere. I thought, yeah, same shelf as the other one. But I would love to get to this year. Legends and Lattes is the next book. I've heard amazing things about this. Apparently it's like a cozy fantasy. I delved into cozy mysteries a little bit last year, and through all the hype that I saw in 2023 about Legends and Lattes as well as its sequel, I figured I'd give the first one a shot. I'm not super sure how I'm going to feel about it because I don't think I've ever read like a cozy fantasy or even a fantasy that kind of is comparable to this. We'll see how it goes. Everyone loves it. I'm excited to give it a shot this year. Another one I know absolutely nothing about, Christina Lauren's The Paradise Problem. I have not read a new release of theirs in quite some time. Unintentionally. I do love most of their books, but I found that after the hype of the Unhoneymooners, like nothing truly has compared with their writing for me, and I think every time I pick up a new book of theirs, I'm comparing it to the Unhoneymooners. Maybe this year I'll get over that, but this is their 2024 release and I'm really looking forward to it. Then we have Claire Legrand's first foray into, I believe, adult fantasy, which is The Crown of Ivy and Glass. This is something that seems really interesting to me. When I read Furyborn back in 2023, I'm not sure when it was, I thoroughly enjoyed how Claire Legrand can build a world. It takes a minute for me to get into, and I think that was because I was so focused on it being a YA fantasy that I was like, why am I struggling? I think she's going to really excel in adult fantasy, so I'm really excited to give this one a shot. We've got another set of 3 books here. They are part of a larger series, but why is it always Sarah J Maas that I have 3 of? It is Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. These are the last 3 books in the Throne of Glass series. I have read up to Empire of Storms. I do think I'm going to go back and reread from the very beginning, which is crazy for me to say. These are the only 3 I haven't read. I got caught up moving into an apartment after college when I was in the middle of this series, and I was like, I'll put Empire of Storms on pause, and then I was like, oh, I'm supposed to do a tandem read with Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn? Great, I'll have to start it over. Never. I didn't. I still haven't finished the series, and I desperately need to, and I think that's gonna come before Crescent City, so I've got to get a move on. Then we have Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. This is the 2nd book in the Imperium trilogy. It follows the events of Furyborn, which was a book I really enjoyed, and I want to go back and reread Furyborn and then hopefully get to this one and hopefully even the 3rd, but we're setting the bar low. We're just doing the 2nd one. That's all we're doing. Next up on my 2024 TBR, we have 3 books, all by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware is another author that I've really liked some books and then not liked others as much. She has 3 recent releases, well, 2 recent releases and then 1 upcoming that I haven't read yet. And I've been meaning to get to them for quite some time. I believe one of them was published in 2022 or early 2023. I can't really remember, and that's the It Girl. Then following the release of It Girl, we have 0 Days. And then the one coming out this year is One Perfect Couple. All 3 of these I have yet to get to. Ruth Ware is a mystery thriller author. My favorite book by her is The Turn of the Key. This one really blew me out of the water. It was like one of the first mystery thrillers I had ever read. I remember I was listening to it on audio on my way home because I was literally reading it at work physically, and I was so captivated by the story. I borrowed it on audiobook to finish it on my way home, and I was at a stoplight when the ending or the big reveal happened, and I literally went, and it was an immediate 5 stars. So ever since then, I've been chasing that high of The Turn of the Key. I have read, I'm looking at the books, The Woman in Cabin 10 and One by One by her. I think those are the only ones I've read, and I wasn't a big fan of either of those. So I'm hoping that maybe one of these will be a hit for me. Otherwise, I might start diving into her backlist. Then I really want to reread Every Heart a Doorway by Shana Maguire. This is one that I read forever ago. Kayla, Books and Lala here on BookTube, loves this series, so much so that she did a vlog where she like read every book in 72 hours or something like that. Every time she talks about them, it usually comes up in like an anticipated releases video of hers, and I'm like, I really need to give that first book another try because I remember it being like a more adult version of Miss Peregrine's. They're really short. I feel like they'd be really easy to get into. So I feel like it's a easy one to kind of knock off on a 2024 TBR. Also, I realized that there's 25 books on this TBR, not 24, so I lied to you. You just get a bonus. I'm not sorry, you're getting a bonus. So maybe this one counts as like 24 and a half since it's so short. You know, between Priory of the Orange Tree and this book, I'm balancing them out, okay? I gotta do what I can this year. The Serpent and Dove by Shelby Marin. This is a book that I bought forever ago with the intention of doing a video with like authors with the same name as me because her name's Shelby. Never got around to it. I think there's like now 3 books. Is it a trilogy? I think there's 3 books. I don't know if it's gonna end there. It's blurbed by Sarah J. Maas. Apparently this is like a fantastical enemies to lovers maybe, between like a witch and a witch hunter, and that's all I really remember of it. I think Whitney really likes this one. It looks really interesting with my lighting. Whitney really likes this one and keeps mentioning it to me, so maybe I'm gonna get to it this year. That's the goal. That's why it's on this TBR, right? I would have been able to reach that one if I didn't put it in its right place today. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. All the rage on TikTok in 2023. So I gotta try it in 2024. I bought it because I was like, I'm gonna really enjoy this one. And I think even in 2023, I did try it and I got a few chapters in and was enjoying it, but I was in a massive reading slump and didn't feel like continuing on. So fortunately, I've forgotten a large part of what that was about. So I'm hoping that this year I can start fresh and try it again. I'm trying to mix up genres a lot in this TBR apparently, because I've got some romance, I've got some mystery thrillers, I've got some horror, I think I had, fantasy, no sci-fi. Never gonna have sci-fi on here. I will have a cozy mystery though. I first dove into cozy mysteries with Finley Donovan is Killing It. It is a cozy mystery about a single mother who is an author and she gets caught up in this murder for hire plot. And the 4th book in the series is coming out. It's called Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. It comes out this year. Really looking forward to it. There has been a little novella about a side character that I will probably read before then, but I'm looking forward to this one coming out and potentially reading it during its release week. Or, you know, release month, or hopefully within like the 3 months after it's been released. I just want to get to it this year because I really liked the first one and the 2nd and 3rd were kind of flops for me. So I'm hoping that maybe the 2nd and 3rd were building up for the 4th, because I felt like they were kind of like nothing burgers, like they just didn't have a lot going for it. So I'm hoping that maybe she has this giant plot planned out in her head. Books 2 and 3 were setting that up, and book 4 is gonna blow me out of the water. If book 4 does not blow me out of the water and it's like another 2 or 3 star, I might call it quits on this series. I don't know, I have a hard time like giving up in the middle of a series. I'm really stubborn. We'll see, but I'm hoping for the best. Speaking of continuing a series that I'm not loving, I don't think I've given any of the books in this series 5 stars. I think they've all been like 3, 3.5, maybe 1 got a 4, but I highly doubt it. That is the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert. The next one I have to read is Cruel Seduction. That's pretty much it. I feel like her books, for me, either have too much plot and not enough romance, or too much spice and not enough plot. I feel like sometimes she'll try and do like a really intense like mystery, plot line, suspenseful romance, but then the romance doesn't deliver enough for me, or the romance delivers too much and then I'm like, what's the point of even having the suspenseful scene if like you spend 99% of the book focusing on the romance? Like it never feels like it's the right balance for me, and maybe it's because I'm expecting unattainable things. I almost said unachievable things. Is that even a word? I haven't loved any of the books in this series, but for some reason I keep returning. They're very addicting. That's an innuendo, but I'll let you work on that one on your own. Then I have another little romance, which is The Ride of Her Life by Jennifer Dugan. This book is on my TBR largely because it seems like something Whitney's gonna enjoy and maybe we'll buddy read it. It's a horse girl romance and honestly, it looks cute, it looks sapphic and enjoyable, and I just need some like light fluffy stuff to get me through the year sometimes, so that's exactly what this is. I only picked it up because I think our friend Sonia texted it to Whitney and was like, this book is for Whitney, or maybe I did. I think it was Sonia, and they were like, this book is for Whitney. And I was like, looks interesting. And then it became available on my ARC platform and I was like, I'm gonna download it and Whitney and I are gonna buddy read it eventually. Whitney, if you're watching this, if you wanna buddy read it, let me know. And lastly, I needed one more book to round out the little TBR graphic that I was working on and that all of this has been referenced from that I'll post at the end. And I texted both Bonnie and Whitney and I said, hey, anybody have a recommendation for a book for me? And Bonnie recommended That Summer Feeling by Bridget Morrissey. This was one book, I think it's like a summer camp sapphic romance, and I feel like I remember Whitney reading this and she was like hee and kicking her feet the entire time. Whitney recently recommended me Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, which, spoiler alert, was my favorite video of the year if you haven't seen my 2023 favorite books. And so she recommended me that book because she was like, I'm kicking my feet and giggling at this. And I'm like, well, if she was kicking her feet and giggling at that, maybe there's some potential with this one. So I was like, okay, Bonnie, thanks for the rec. I'll take it. These are the books that I'm anticipating reading. Here's the graphic, if you wish to reference any of them that I mentioned. If you are planning on reading any of these, or if you have a few books that you're like desperately gonna get to in 2024, let me know what they are in the comments. While you're down there, make sure to subscribe and like the video, do the YouTube-y things. I'm trying to get better about like marketing myself on YouTube in 2024. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Happy reading!